MSNBC just spoke to a group of black voters in Philadelphia, and this should be interesting. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about MSNBC speaking to a group of black voters in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, I just covered a story where CNN spoke to a group of white voters in the same area, and they wound up mostly being liberal. You had the one guy talking about, oh, I'm a Reagan Republican, but yet I'm a vote Kamala. Really? How does that match up? Now, I expect to see similar attitudes from the black folks out in this area as well. That's what I suspect, but I could be wrong. I've not watched this clip yet. I just saw like a thumbnail and the title, and I knew that it would be very interesting for us to check out together. Now, of course, before I roll this, you know where it is. It's in the box if you want to see it in full without my commentary. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Does everybody know who they're voting for? Or is anybody undecided still?
I'm very undecided.
Undecided.
Right now, inflation. So I'm monitoring who's talking the most about inflation. Re-entry. I would like to see everyone who is a criminal with federal.
So re-entry, I'm thinking you're talking about like if you've been locked up and you come home, you're re-entry into society. How does that look for you? Are there jobs available? Is there any kind of funding available? I think that's her focus. Maybe son, grandson got locked up. Okay, now when he comes home at 35 years old, what's he going to do?
Charges, still be able to vote. If we can have a criminal for president, we need to allow some voting rights back that were taken illegally in the first place.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
Who do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children.
Now, I understand your emotion and I feel you, and I don't want to step on your emotion. But at the same time, you're speaking about the food stamp people. The people at the very, very bottom are not struggling that much, in my opinion. I'm not saying they're doing very well like a wealthy person, but hear me out. When you're on food stamps, all this stuff, you're pretty much just giving things, and a lot of times you're going to have a hard time spending everything you get, especially if you are an illegal alien. That's what I'm saying. People at the very bottom is a little bit different. The middle class, those who work for a living, those people are being squeezed the hardest here.
They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't, but I have to go work.
Who feels as if black voters are taken for granted, i.e., they make you promises and they don't deliver? What do you care about most right now?
What are they going to do for my people that lives in the communities where I am from? The gun violence is second in my mind, but it's what can they do for us?
Well, look, you had a president in President Trump who introduced the Platinum Plan. The plan, $500 billion to a lot of your communities. $500 billion with a B. What did the community say? We don't want Trump. He's a racist. Let's vote for this old racist white man by the name of Joe Biden instead. And rather than that $500 billion going to you and your community, it went to the illegal aliens. There was a study released by some congressional Republicans from 2022 summertime up until right now, 2024 summertime. There's been $450 billion with a B dollars spent on the illegal aliens, on the migrant crisis. So the money that you guys are going to get, that we were going to get, went to them instead. And you're wondering why you're having a hard time in this society.
How can they help? How can they go into a home and help that family to save their children? We need the funding. We want the help. But in my opinion, it starts at home.
It starts at home. Jalil, what about you? What is most important to you right now?
Economics, education, reentry, reform.
Reentry to the criminal justice system.
Exactly.
Everybody's mentioned money so far. Everybody's mentioned money, struggling, trying to make a living. Everybody's mentioned the same thing.
We need to save ourselves.
That's right.
If we're looking for somebody to save us, it's not going to happen.
If you look at Philadelphia and you took the most impoverished areas in Philadelphia, and then you took the crime rate where the most crime is happening in Philadelphia, and you laid it right there, it would almost match up perfectly. Mm-hmm. So if you're seeing that much of a correlation between poverty and crime, you have to address that on some level.
Let me just talk about the poverty and crime, because people always, the thought process in the community and in greater society, I would suppose, is that if you throw more money at the problem, it'll fix itself. But that's not how it works. Ultimately, the young lady who spoke a little while ago, she said it starts at home. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at something. If you just try to artificially boost people up, they're going to still kind of be the same, because it's their mentality that has to change. Just because you are in an impoverished environment does not mean you have to be a gangbanger or criminal or dope dealer or something like that. There's a lot of ways to make money in this world. A lot of ways to make money in this world, especially in this country, the USA. You don't have to resort to thugging and drugging, but when you are 18 years old and can't read, what else are you going to do? See what I'm saying? It starts at home. Maybe if you had parents that cared about you, a family that cared about you and raised you properly, you wouldn't be out in the street trying to figure out, how are you going to be able to get something to eat? How are you going to be able to have somewhere to live? You got to resort to the street stuff because you don't know anything else. That comes from a lack of education. So throwing money at something is not going to help. You got to actually pour into these children from a young age so they can grow up and become better than their surroundings, which is what happened to me. I come straight from the hood, the real hood, that a lot of y'all would not ever want to go to, but I was able to get out of that because of how much I was poured into by my friends, family, my parents. Everybody poured into me. I got 15 uncles, 20 aunts. They all poured into me. My mom, my dad, my granddad, everybody. But in these communities, they don't have anything. They're just out there just trying to figure it out. But I digress.
If we invest in our schools, invest in our youth, we will see some changes there.
The way I would articulate it is quality of life issues. How we live our everyday lives, right? So if that's jobs, if that's housing, if that's gun violence, if that's education, like everything that makes our lives good, that's what I vote for in mind.
Who votes with guns in mind on a federal level? When you cast your ballot at a presidential election for senators, for members of Congress.
Now, when you say guns in mind,
gun control, issues surrounding guns, background checks, all of you.
Like, gun control is the dumbest thing. They think that there's something you can do. I mean, unless you got a magic wand and you could just wave all the guns away, you're not going to actually solve the issue of gun violence with legislation. Unless you actually get the criminals committing the gun violence locked up for a very long time. I'm not sure what Pennsylvania's laws are, but in Virginia, 5 years mandatory minimum for a pistol if it's illegal, off rip. Now, you're able to carry whatever you want openly, but if you have an illegal gun, like the Hunter Biden situation, when you were a crack smoker and lied on your background check, 5 years mandatory minimum, off the rip, and then whatever you did with the pistol. So, okay, you running into somebody's house with a firearm, convicted felon, you're toast. You got to be hard on crime, because all gun laws do is prevent law-abiding citizens from having the right to protect themselves against the criminals from the criminals.
You do.
Yes.
I mean, that's us voting with us in mind.
Yeah.
You understand? When you say that, like, this is
talking about your family.
You know,
Yes.
like, yeah. When you ask me, am I voting with guns in mind? I'm voting. That means I'm voting with me in mind, because I could very much be a victim of gun violence.
You got to keep talking about it, keep talking about it. You have to consistently let people know this is not normal. It doesn't seem like people are angry enough to say no more, no more.
And we're going to keep talking about it. I checked in with these voters after the attempted assassination of the former president this past week, and they told me while it has not changed their positions on who they're going to vote for, they're still undecided. It does reiterate that guns are a major problem in this country.
Oh boy, oh boy. I mean, okay, the gun violence problem is so ridiculous. Look, as I close, I want to say this. You're just seeing more liberal people. That's all. It's the same kind of mentality. Okay, the government is a problem, but the government going to save us. Yeah, they said it. What's the biggest problem with the inflation? The federal government. Okay, now when you vote with guns in mind. Yes, you want the government to come in and fix certain things, but you've demonstrated that they don't know how to do the most important things well. So why would you trust them with that thing over there? How are they going to fix it? The places with some of the tightest gun laws in the country got some of the worst crime, Chicago, Illinois. But as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to them. I hope that they decide on who to vote for. It really shouldn't be a difficult decision, but I hope that they decide who to vote for. Hopefully they go the other direction, go Trump. If you want to go third party, that's kind of a cop-out. You might as well vote for yourself or not even vote at all because it's inconsequential. All it's going to do really is just take votes away from somebody or add them. It's going to hurt one person, help the other person because your vote is not going to one side. That's all it's going to do. You're not actually doing anything, in my humble opinion. It's your right to vote for whoever you want to vote for, but if you really want to be somebody that's making the difference, you should just kind of vote for one of the big people, in my humble opinion. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what some of these black voters said out there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? You think that they had some good points? Do you empathize with them? Is there more that needs to be done here, especially in the community with the gun violence and the poverty and the crime? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I think a lot of people just don't understand the reality of the situation. They don't understand it. A lot of people don't grow up like the way I grew up. They don't grow up like the way a lot of my friends grew up. So they don't even understand what's going on. You know, I was doing this debate some years back with this dude, and he's like, he was looking at numbers like, okay, there's a lot of obesity in the black community. It's X amount of % higher than the white community. So what they need to combat the obesity is gyms. If we just put more gyms in the community, that'll help reduce the obesity, and obesity is linked to crime. I'm like, my man, really? So basketball courts, that's the solution. We do too much of it already. Too much laughing and joking and playing around, playing sports. That's all we do. Can we get some reading, writing, and arithmetic? Can we get some of these consistent predators in the community locked up and throw away the key rather than getting a slap on the wrist? You out in a year, you out with no time at all, don't even get charged. That's the actual problem. But people that don't understand it because they're not from it, they don't really know how to go about doing it. It's like a person that flies a plane being instructed on how to fly it by a guy from the street with no piloting experience. It doesn't make any sense. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.